Hey, welcome to the Art Condition Podcast, a weekly show that will discuss the business, community, and often undiscussed stress and mental health concerns of being a professional artist, or even a serious hobbyist. I'm Joby. I've been in the tattoo and illustration professions for 25 years. My co-host is Moose, a data analyst, social media manager, and art agent. If you enjoy the content, please consider visiting the Patreon page in the show notes to help support the effort. Or if that's not an option, please like, subscribe, leave a good review, or just share with your friends. And definitely go visit the links of our guests on this episode. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. Our guest this week is known best as Cave Geek, a brand he personifies as a sci-fi and fantasy nerd who has a passion for primitive skills and ancient techniques of creating beautiful art. His buckskin maps are popular collector's items, each one painstakingly handcrafted using the same methods our ancestors perfected tens of thousands of years ago. He's also an artist that relies heavily on conventions as a part of his livelihood. And like so many artists in the same situation, he faced serious hardship in 2020. We're going to talk to him about what he has done to compensate for the loss of convention revenue, where he found aid in packages of loans, stimulus opportunities, specifically for artists, and how the community he has immersed himself in through his full-time streaming on Twitch has helped him stay afloat emotionally as well as financially. Thanks for listening. Here's the interview. You were just here, weren't you?
What?
What are you doing sucking up all of our time, man?
I paid you well.
Being a real hog here. I don't know. I don't know what to do about this.
Slipped you a 20.
Slipped me a Mickey. As long as you're here, though, refresh us.
Yeah.
Tell us again, in seriousness, you're an awesome person. We all love you. Don't feel bad. Tell us about you. Tell us about you and a little bit of your background, how you got into art, where you're at today.
Oh, God. I was born 40 years ago. So I am originally actually from Israel. I'm not. I was born and raised in Israel. I always liked drawing stuff. Never took it very far as far as being good at drawing or anything like that. I was good as a 6-year-old or 10-year-old, but not really anything impressive. But just being creative, making stuff, always collecting sticks and rocks and things. I started playing D&D when I was 9 or 10 years old, I think. Something like that, 10 years old. 4th grade, I believe. And that I would call that just one of the biggest milestones in my life. And still playing now, 30 years later. And what else? Was really into animals and nature as a kid and all that. And then in my early 20s, I started, traveling. I came to the U.S. I took some survival, primitive technology classes, etc. And that's the second big milestone in my life where I discovered the world of primitive technology and survival and things like that, and tracking, and fell in love with it. And that's what I did with my life for over a decade. I somehow got shoehorned just by coincidence into making, tanning traditional brain tan buckskin, which we can get to later as to what that is. It's an ancient form of leather. And so I got into doing that and then teaching that and traveling around and teaching workshops on how to do that and how to do other primitive survival stuff. And one day my nerd or my geek and my caveman collided, and I started making nerdy things out of natural materials and primitive technology-ish. First I was making bone swords and knives that are based on Lord of the Rings and the Lord of the Rings movies and things like that. And then I made a map. I had done a couple of creatively, just for the sake of doing it, I had done a little bit of wood burning before, and maybe one project that I burned on an actual on actual buckskin. But when the Hobbit movies were coming out, I just had this idea because I was already making the bone, sort of what would a primitive elf knife look like, right? Out of bone, just out of my own curiosity. And I had the thought, well, what would a primitive map of Middle Earth look like? I want to make myself a map of Middle Earth. And I mean, I just wanted a map, honestly. I just wanted a map. And because I was broke, I was like, well, I can't buy one, so I'll make it. So I thought, well, I could make it a primitive map. I could make it on deerskin because I have one, and I could paint it with pigments because I have them. I was staying with a friend who had some pigments, and I just sticks and whatever, and just figured out how to do that. So I made, long story short, I made my first real primitive sort of fantasy map. And when I did that, I discovered that not only was it awesome and I liked it, and strange things happen. We'll get to what I make and how I make it later, but I started making more things pretty soon, and within a couple of years, I was doing things kind of loosely for a couple of years on the side, and then started going to conventions to sell stuff and figuring that out. That was about 6 years ago, and there you go. That's where I am now. I make mostly fantasy maps, but other stuff sometimes as well. All of it on deerskin, or made digitally from photos of deerskin. And 2020, I don't travel to conventions anymore, but that used to be the main thing I would do. And I stream on Twitch.
How long have you been streaming on Twitch? You said you've been doing map making for 6 years. Have you been streaming on Twitch for 6 years?
No, I've been streaming on Twitch for about, I want to say 4 years now. I think it was 2017. I think December 2017 is when I started. I think. So no,
How
2016, I don't. It's been 4 years.
give or
Math.
take a year.
Give or take a year. Yeah.
How regularly do you stream? How consistent are you in that?
I stream almost every day. Almost every day, especially this year. I stream. I can pull up the stats. They're kind of ridiculous. But I've streamed. There are times when I stream. You know, I look back and I see that I've streamed the whole month without taking a day off.
What,
So,
for real?
yeah.
A whole month in a row?
Well, I go offline, but I streamed every day.
Oh, it was, so you don't stream yourself sleeping and going to the bathroom?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Interesting. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Sure.
What I want to rewind just a little bit though, and maybe you can tell me a little bit like how you found out about streaming and what appealed to you about it. Like, what said to you, this is something that I want to do?
I knew about streaming from actually two friends of mine that streamed already at the time. One is, if I can give them shout outs, Stethorel, who streamed games. He was a personal friend in real life, and streamed games. So I would occasionally go on Twitch just to hang out with him on his stream. And then the other friend was Steven Meisner, Solar Roboto Industries, who no longer streams. He streams creative. He's one of the finest private prop makers in the country. And so he streamed the creative side of it. So I would hang out with either one of them. I didn't really watch anybody else. So, but the idea, the seed was planted in my head, and maybe it's something I could do. But I'm like, just didn't really make the push to do it. I didn't have the necessary push to do it, I guess. And then actually during a convention, DragonCon 2017, I believe it was. See, now I'm like, Anyway, I got a commission for a map of Middle Earth from a couple for their it was going to be their 30-something anniversary present to themselves, and they were major Lord of the Rings fans. Jim wouldn't call himself a scholar, a Tolkien scholar, but damn close. Other people would. So and they had a lot of input. It was honestly, the perfect customer for a commission. Like, that gives you all the information you ask and more, right? And with photos and notations and everything. Because with a map, while there is room for creative input, there's, I need to know why things are the way they are and where they are so that I can make a map accurately. Can't just take a creative license with where things are in the map or what they look like. We lost Moose.
It happens every now and then. Ignore it. He'll be back.
You have to go fight crime.
He always comes back.
A moose. Anyway, so I asked them, hey, how would you like to see your map being made live? And you could give me some live feedback on things, because I had a lot of questions. And they're like, sure, that sounds great. And that really was what pushed me to start streaming, because I'm like, hey, I've got a customer that needs this, right? So I had Stethorel Dan and Solar Roboto Steven, who sort of gave me a little bit of advice, just setting me up with, download this, OBS, and do that and do this, and this is how that works. And I got started. And, that's how I got into it. 4 years later, however much that is. I'm still here.
Do you think there's a way that streaming has affected either the way that you make art or the type of art that you make, or has the type of streaming, like your style of stream only been affected by the type of artwork that you do?
No,
does that question make sense? Maybe
I think it does. If not, I'll make it make sense. I'll make up my own meaning to it. It definitely affected my art, for sure. The first thing I will say is that streaming is the best thing I ever did for my creativity. Because, and especially if you want to take a look at dry technical terms, my portfolio. Because once streaming became a habit, and it sort of needs to be something you enjoy and you make it a habit, right? You're not going to make a habit something that isn't fun, right? So once I started enjoying it, and I kind of didn't have a choice in the beginning. Now that I think about it, because I was making a map and I told the customer, you'll be able to watch this live, and I was working on it every day for probably a month or two, then I had to be there to show them. So I had that trigger in place to force me to go, right? Like going to the gym or whatever. So I had the thing that forced me to go live every day for a few weeks. And then it became fun because people started showing up that I didn't know. Some people from real life, some friends from real life would show up, but mostly it was random people on Twitch. And some of those would come back, right? So now you're starting to make friends, relationships with people. And so it became fun. And once it became fun and became a habit, then when I ran out of a commission to make, when I didn't have any more paid work to do, which was most of the time, I still would think about what's the next project I'm going to work on, because I can't just sit here twiddle my thumbs. Some streamers do, then that's fine, and if thumb twiddling is what they stream, that's great. But I really have to keep my hands busy, and I like making stuff. And I was convinced, at least at the beginning, that people come into my stream and they stay there because they want to see me work. And I learned that that's not true necessarily. So I would keep thinking about what's the next project, which meant that my pile of actual maps or artwork kept getting bigger. My portfolio kept getting bigger and bigger, which was a great thing. So, and before I would stream, I would work on either commissions if I had them, or just enough to because I was going to conventions already for like a year or two at the time. And I was thinking, well, once I have enough inventory of originals to fill a booth at a convention, I don't need to make more, right? What's the point? I was on Instagram and Facebook and barely posting, and so I wasn't really promoting myself too much. I was just comfortable, sort of, with just going to conventions, and if I can fill a booth, then that's it, and I don't have to make any more stuff, which isn't a great way to do things, because then your stuff gets old and boring, and you don't improve as an artist if you don't keep making things. So yeah, streaming really affected it. It made me get a whole lot better because it forced me to keep making things. I think a lot of craftspeople, a lot of artists, creative, whatever, they have trouble practicing because you got to really make yourself practice. And I hate the word practice, so it's kind of going off course here. But I wasn't practicing. I was actually making things to make them, not for the sake of studying it or just trying this out. And no, it was, I'm going to make this thing as best as I can, and then I'll make the next thing as best as I can, and then I'll make the next thing, because I want people on my stream to have something to watch, right? So that's how it worked.
I've heard that some artists have a difficult time doing their best work on stream, whether it's pressure from being watched or just juggling multiple things, not being able to concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you had any of that, or did you have to overcome any of it at some point?
Nope. Maybe I am undiagnosed ADD or something, so distraction is fine. But I also have a background in teaching when I was teaching primitive skills. So that's doing a workshop with people watching, and I have to instruct all of them, and I have to pay attention to a dozen different people doing a dozen different things at the same time. So there's probably something to that, where I came from a background that gave me the skills to be distracted. And I feel like, at least me personally, I think anyone could learn it. I have the ability to really focus on something. It's been rare. If there are people here watching who are regulars on my stream, they'll tell you it's rare that I say, guys, sorry, I really got to focus on this for a minute, and I can't pay attention to chat. But it happens. For the most part, I can sort of split my attention. I'll work on whatever I'm doing, and I'll look up a couple of minutes from now, which is why I miss chat all the time. Maybe a lot of other streamers feel an obligation to pay attention to chat. I don't. Screw you guys. No. Well, it's fun. I'm having a fun conversation with people and hanging out. I don't feel obligated to really engage 100% of the time with 100% of the people and respond to 100% of the messages that people post. I'd like to, but it's not something I stress over. Obviously, the project I'm working on is my priority.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's the key difference. Like when people do talk about being distracted in their streams or not getting the best work that they could be or that they feel that they should be, it comes from maybe that sense of obligation of like, I need to be paying a certain amount of attention, or like the priority of attention should be on chat. And I don't know, it's not to say that one is the right way or one is the wrong way.
Right.
I think it just comes down to your personal style. And I guess
I will sorry, but I will like go on a tangent in my head while you are talking, right? So it's the same thing. I have a hard time paying 100% attention to the one person in front of me when they're talking. So it's okay if there's 10 or 20 or however many of them talking, and that's rare, while I'm working. It actually maybe makes it easier because I have something from my brain to sort of distract itself with either the chat or the work. So
better than getting distracted with Twitter
or Facebook or exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We have talked in past episodes though about burnout and fatigue from lots of streaming with other artists that have been on the show and that do streaming as well. But when you talk about streaming for a month straight, without really taking a day off from the streaming, man, that feels like a lot. Like I get worn out if I stream for like more than a few days in a row without taking a break. Again, I guess this is just like personal style. You like your brain just works that way, or do you ever feel burnout and there's things that you do to sort of compensate and rectify that?
Yes and no. So actually, I did pull up the stats from Twitch, and it kind of, when I look at those, I go, oh my god, really? So there's the path to partner thing, which I'm never going to get. But out of you have to stream for 25 hours in a single month, right? That's the minimum. I had streamed for 179.48 hours out of the 25,
Crap.
and I streamed 30 out of the last 12 days, right? So the last 30 days, I did not take a day off. So, do I get burned out? I get tired, but not necessarily from streaming, just life in general. And I've noticed almost every single time when I was just really tired or just down or whatever. And because let's face it, and my situation may be different. I have one roommate who, because our schedules are opposite, barely see each other, right? I'm not entirely an introvert, but I'm definitely not an extrovert. So I don't necessarily go out with a lot of friends. I actually moved to Georgia from New Jersey a couple of years ago, so I don't have a whole lot of friends here. And a couple of years means half of that time has been 2020, where you just don't go out. So I stay home most of the time anyway. And I used to get my fix on people, my social fix at conventions, where you go on a weekend and you see 100,000 people, and then you don't want to see anybody for another year. But in 2 weeks you have to do it again. So streaming for me was kind of a perfect baseline. I can interact with people, but they're not in my space. I can say hello to all my friends. I can check in on them. They can check in on me. We hang out. We joke around. We listen to cool music, whatever. But they're not in my room with me, or I don't have to leave my room to do it, and they're not coming in here. So, but when I feel bummed out and tired and like, oh man, I just want to sleep and I don't feel like streaming and all that, invariably the times when I force myself to get up, wash my face, go stream, because you do have work to do, and I'll stream. Those are the best streams where I actually just feel, oh, thank God I did, because I feel much better about life in general. Right. Instead of, if I didn't stream, what would change? Nothing. Right.
So you mentioned music, and that's a bit of a hot button issue on Twitch at the moment.
Currently, yeah.
So what is your
Are we
solution?
even allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, we can.
Hey.
What's your solution to avoiding being DMCA takedown?
I don't have one. I don't have a solution. So,
but you have a system.
I have a what?
You have a system. You took precautions.
Did I? The only precaution I took was I deleted all the old stuff, all my old VODs and clips that contained any copyrighted stuff. It would be really difficult for me to stream without music. Again, it's one of those, maybe because my brain has to work on multiple tracks at the same time, and having music. If you watch my stream, I'm constantly singing along to music, not because I think I sing well, just because I just like to, and it's something from my brain to do. So I would have a really hard time. Do I not what?
Sorry, I was talking over you.
It's fine. I talked over you.
I thought he was going to say that he deleted the ability to make clips and no longer save
So I did stop that. Okay, I did pause. I put a stop to clip making, which honestly, most people, when I went through my clips the first time, which was back in June when this whole thing blew up, and I decided to go through my clips, it was just ridiculous. The amount of clips of nothing. I'm not even saying that there was just somebody might have thought this was quality content, and I just disagree. No, there was literally nothing. Like, I wasn't working. There was silence. There was why? So there was so much of that it just, and I get annoyed with digital clutter sort of thing, right? So I just stopped it entirely. Maybe I'm missing out on a few funny memories, but really, you could use clips. I found out you could use clips to your advantage from a marketing standpoint. There was one clip of mine. It wasn't even of mine. It was a clip from a convention, of the convention floor, just showing the floor and a couple of people, cosplayers, moving past the camera. I wasn't saying anything in that clip. Right? Somebody saw that. So the person who clipped that, I think, saw my stream during the convention and shared that to a subreddit for cosplay fail or something. It wasn't even that fun. I don't know why, but that clip had hundreds of views on it, hundreds. Where the max that the next biggest clip had like 40 over the course of 4 years or something. So, and most of them had 1, 2, because just the person who made them saw them and that's it, right? So I guess you could strategically use clips to market yourself if you want. But I just decided to shut it down and not have clips. And then it came out that actual VODs were getting flagged as well, I guess. So I just went and deleted all of my VODs because to me, again, and we have to get to that, I suppose, the attitude of streaming and what you get out of it and what you want to get out of it. I don't stream to be a streamer. I don't care if I have VODs on or not. I really don't. I'm there for the moment. I tell my viewers all the time that they are there to entertain me, not the other way around, because otherwise I would be watching Netflix, right? And I would run out of shit to watch on Netflix. So, so they're there because I would get bored otherwise. That's why I stream now. And I don't care if there's a VOD or not. The 2 people that are going to go watch the VODs, I'm sorry. I know that I do stream some gaming, and some people that are like, if we're streaming a game with some storyline to it and people really wanted to catch up on what we've done, then they go watch the VOD. But I'm sorry. It's a loss, but it's not a huge loss. Not to me anyway. So, so that's how I avoid it, I guess, the DMCA stuff. I'm still listening to music live, maybe. I guess I can't admit that too much, but I'm still potentially, maybe, listening to music and have song requests on my stream. It certainly keeps my energy going. I know that sometimes if the song requests are really weird, depressing things or whatever, right? My productivity drops, right? So the energy level is definitely determined by what music is playing. Sometimes I'm just really tired, and I'll just, all right, I need some heavy metal to wake me up so I can keep working. So
yeah, I was going to say that there are, DMCA proof, royalty free playlists and stuff, but the majority that I've come across are they're like, they're too mellow, or they're mostly all mellow and soundtracks, and you're not getting any like heavy metal or anything like too energizing out of them.
If I click on a stream and I hear and it's all creative streams. If I click on a creative stream and I hear that smooth jazz elevator music bullshit, I'm out of there.
Hey,
Seriously.
Hey, that's me. I play that.
Yes.
I play that all for this very reason.
But you have the sexy radio voice and the awesome art.
I see.
But I've known you for a while. It's really hard for me to listen to that music. I can't stand it. So it's just like, come on. I need some AC.
Well, there's no pleasing everybody, because a lot of people come into the stream and they're like, oh, I fucking love this music. The thing though is that, like, if you do become a regular in a stream and that's all that they're playing, then probably you're going to get sick of listening to it.
Right. Yeah, and that's about. I don't know if I'm answering questions you're going to ask. So, but we've touched on it. There's no one right way to do it. So stream. Do you want me to go into my spiel for streamers, or do you want to get to that later?
Go ahead.
So I would say the first thing, I've had a lot of friends or Twitch viewers or whatever that began streaming, and sometimes it was because I had a hand in pushing them to do it and helping them set up. I like paying it forward because there are a couple of people that helped me, like that I mentioned. So I like helping others. And the first thing I will tell people is that I'm not a streamer. I get a cringy sort of feeling when I hear somebody else says, I'm a streamer and I stream this, and it's just my thing. It's not because they're doing anything wrong. When people say I'm a variety streamer, and I'm not a streamer. I'm just a craftsman or an artist who decided to turn on the camera so that I don't get bored while I work. Really, that's my attitude about it. So I'm not putting on a show. I'm not there to entertain people, and that's what I want to get out of it is exactly what I just said. Just some distraction, some or a baseline of energy that feeds my creativity. Nothing else. If I get anything else out of it, that's great. Subs, donations, whatever, that's fantastic. But really, the most important thing that I get out of it is that energy. And I think that is the core of what makes me not burn out, to go back to burnout, because I'm not a streamer. I don't feel obligated to put on a certain level of content or entertainment or engagement, etc., etc. Nor do I feel like I have to make a living off of streaming, which is why I'll probably never actually make partner, because you have to have a certain amount of engagement and energy and a certain style. There are many ways of achieving that, but you have to reach that point, right? And in order to reach that point, you really have to put a whole lot more into it. And I just don't want to. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do my art and hang out with cool people. That's it. So if you're going to go stream, if you're considering streaming, really be honest with yourself and think about what is it you want to get out of it. If there's no one right way to do it, because spend a day surfing Twitch and you'll see a million different styles of streaming. Even just within creative, and even within that, pick your niche of what you do creatively, and you will find you watch a dozen different streams, it'll be a dozen different ways of streaming painting or sculpting or whatever. So you are a vibe, Brittany. So just think honestly, what is it you want to get out of it? If you want to make a living from streaming, like a full living off of streaming, a livable income, that's a completely different ballgame than I just want to hang out with people or promote my art a little bit, right? Those are completely different things. So be honest with yourself, and that can change over time. There's nothing that says that your attitude can't change over time when you all of a sudden get over. A lot of people are just initially even afraid to be on camera, right? And you don't have to be on camera. Does it help to be on camera, to have a face cam, as people call it? Yes, it does. Me personally, and a lot of other people that I've asked, feel less engaged with the stream where they can't see the streamer, so they leave shortly after getting there. But there are plenty of streamers, or even partners, who never show themselves on camera. Creative streamers. So it's possible. But think about what you want. Think about what you want to get out of it, what you're willing to do, and then maybe at first, like I said, being on camera is your biggest challenge, and then you get used to it. If you decided to do it anyway, you get over that, and then your goals change. You're like, hey, man, I really think I could do this. Go for it. Do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever. But as long as you keep focus on what it is you want to get out of it. For me, the burnout, I think, doesn't happen because I really do enjoy making stuff. I have to keep my hands busy. I can't even watch TV anymore without doing something else with my hands, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times that comes down to scrolling through Facebook on my phone because it's something to do. It's something to do with my hands. It's something else to distract my brain too. So, but I stream because I want to keep being creative, and that it's just this feedback loop for me. So I don't get burned out. As long as I'm making stuff, I'm not getting burned out.
Do you ever have pressure that you're being broadcast live, and at any time you can say or do something really stupid that you didn't intend to do, and then that gets put onto live stream and fail, and you get canceled, and no one ever invites you to any more shows ever again, and your career is over? Does that ever loom over you?
Loom, no, but it's something to think about. Right? If you were born anywhere in the late 70s or 80s, you should not be stupid, and you should realize that anything on the internet is on the internet forever, right? And don't do anything on the internet that you wouldn't do in front of your mom. Luckily, I have a pretty open-minded mom that I don't mind trolling, so I will do a lot in front of my mom.
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to what kind of mom you have, right?
Right. But don't, you understand the rules of Twitch or whatever platform you're streaming on. Understand what will get you in trouble, and just don't do it. I definitely toe the line sometimes with things. I don't have rules on my stream other than don't be a dick. That is the only rule I have on my stream. I don't have the no politics, no religion, no. We'll talk about anything that people want to talk, and if they get me on a rant, I'll go I'll go on a rant. Everyone has a right to say their opinion. Just don't be a dick. Um, so have I thought? Yeah, there are certain times that I've caught myself about to say something. I'm like, no, I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't say this, right? And that's a monumental historic moment for me to actually have a filter that that stops me from saying something. So I'm learning.
But yeah, I'm off the after the podcast is over. You'll have to tell me what some of those have been, because now I'm curious what stopped you in your
honestly
tracks.
can't remember specifics. I can't remember specifics, but it's probably some either some really crass joke that might be taken the wrong way, or it's some political opinion that I decide to just not get into, right? Because it doesn't take much for someone to just report you or whatever for
Yeah.
bullshit, right? And I'm yeah. So, but normally I don't filter stuff. It just when I feel that tingling in the back of my neck that you shouldn't. So I try not to. um, so I can't say that's been looming over me. Certainly in 2020, I think because streaming has become more important as far as just my. I'm not making necessarily any more income from streaming in 2020, but I do it more, and it's literally the only outlet I have really for social life and really the biggest marketing thing maybe that I have that I don't have to put a lot of energy into anyway. So I can tell Moose just getting angry inside.
No, I mean
I don't
That's
have to
just
put
a
any
perpetual
energy into streaming.
state.
I just turn on the camera. I don't have to post on Instagram all day, every day, or Reddit. I don't have to wake up early to post on Reddit. So streaming is easy. So in 2020, maybe I'm a little bit more careful, just because it's like with the DMCA stuff, right? Because I don't want that taken away from me. I don't want to get banned off Twitch or whatever. But I pushed the envelope a few times, for sure.
Yeah, you did talk a little earlier about making a living. You're not making a living from Twitch, and you just mentioned you haven't seen any like increase in income or something. And we talked a little bit about, or you talked a little bit about making partner, and that's not an objective of yours. I think it's worth noting too that making a living from Twitch as an artist is very hard.
Oh God.
Arguably it's hard to do even if you're in one of the more like kind of like mainstream veins of Twitch, which is mostly all the gaming, all of the gaming channels. Even there, it's become so saturated it can be harder and harder to start raising to
a
the
lot
top.
of competition.
And for artists, it's for a number of reasons we won't get into. It's super hard, and even if you do make partner, there's some perks to it, but that's not like a meal ticket. Like you're not going to be getting big checks in the mail.
When you look at the math, you do not make the gap between what's available monetizing the option for monetizing your stream that are available to affiliate and to a partner. That gap has closed almost entirely. You even get ad revenue now as an affiliate, which is just pennies a year or something like that. It's ridiculous, but it's there. So it's not a factor of whether you're an affiliate or a partner anymore. It's a factor of how many people are watching your stream. Right? I know affiliates that have way more than the requirements for partner, but Twitch won't make them partner. But they're still making that money because those options are the same. So
it's become very strange. And sorry, Musa, to cut you off. I just want to finish that thought that the as a money making or like an income stream, like we were talking about sort of the type of person you are and personal style, and so just like to get it out of the way and to state it clearly, like that's something that you've like really got to want. You've got to be like really good at it, and you've got to have the type of personality that's going to want to go after that, because fucking good luck. And that's not to crush your dreams or shit on it in any way. It's just like, man, I don't have that constitution. I envy the type of people that do.
And to come full circle, you know what happens when you try to go after it and you don't have what it takes to go after it, the right personality, the right drive to do it, you get burned out, right?
That's where burnout
You,
happens. Yeah.
that's when burnout happens. So I'm not going after it. I'm going after exactly what I want to get out of it, which is just fun. I absolutely I mean, I've been moved to tears on Twitch by people's donations, and it blows me away that I have right in front of me on my desk. I actually burn almost every subscriber's name into my table, and it's right in front of me, right, when I work. And to see that there are people who've been following me for the entire time I've been an affiliate, about 3 years or more, right? So it blows me away. I don't know. I don't understand why. I still, there's part of me that says, why? Like, why do you do this to yourself? But thank you, and I really, really, really appreciate it. And there are months, especially this year, where that little deposit from Twitch, and if we want to get into numbers, I don't mind doing it. That information is generally available online anyway. It helps. It definitely helps. Like knowing that, yeah, rent's going to be paid this month, or at least partially from Twitch, and that's great. So
Yeah, we've talked before on other episodes about Patreon and the dollar tier, and how sometimes people sort of underestimate the power of the dollar tier. Where like some people will say things like, well, I don't want to just, like, $1 doesn't seem like very much. I don't want to just give $1, but I can't afford the higher tiers or whatever. But man, it cannot be overstated the value that the dollar tier has. And and a subscription on Twitch is, it's $5, and of that, an affiliate gets like $2, I think, or like $2.50 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's not, on the one hand, it's not very much, but on the other hand, aside from the dollar amount, it sends such a powerful message to the person making the art and making the stream that you're willing to take that extra effort, that you're going to buy one less cup of coffee because you enjoy the art that they're making. That's a huge deal, especially when you think about how great coffee is. But that's going to be a whole other episode. I think the concept of income would be a good place to transition to the other thing that we wanted to talk to you about, which is conventions, because that has been such a huge part of your business model. And you were saying before, you've been going to conventions just about as long as you've been making the maps, or close to, like 6 years, right?
6 years, and I've been making maps for 8 years. Yeah, or doing my art.
8 years.
For 8
So
years.
yeah. So close to ish. And now the convention circuit is indefinitely on hold. We don't really know when it's coming back. So how have you compensated for that? How have you stepped into?
I haven't. Not in any sustainable way yet. So I initially applied. I mean, I could. Anyone with half a brain could see what was coming, and unfortunately, we had to wait for. It was a scary chicken game. Anyone who is considering going to conventions, starting to do conventions, if you're creative that is thinking of selling your stuff at conventions, I am the one you should talk to if you want to get the bad stuff. Most people, or most podcasts or whatever that are out there to teach you about conventions and talk about them, mostly just talk about the good things, and I will straight up tell you the bad things. And one of the things to realize is when you're doing conventions, even remotely approaching what you'd consider full time, to make a large enough income to live on in a year, that means, let's say, 1 or 2 conventions a month, and that translates to roughly $10,000 to $20,000 in credit card debt, unless you have that capital to start with, right? It translates to $10,000 to $20,000 in credit card debt a year in advance, because you have to sign up for those conventions a year in advance to get your spot, et cetera, et cetera. And so booth fees and hotel fees and all of that stuff, it's a lot of debt, right? And so that debt was already in place at the end of 2019, right? And you're always hoping that, winter is the slow season where you kind of have to, you're hoping that the holiday season is going to sort of give you some of that, not only enough to live, right, but also pay down some of those credit cards until conventions start again in the spring. And then they started, or at least they started revving up, and then the engine never turned over, right, because of COVID. I had 2 conventions this year. It was in January in New Orleans, and then another one in February in Chattanooga, and that's it. Then conventions started getting canceled in March and April, and we unfortunately had to wait. The nightmare was having to wait, knowing that they're going to get canceled, right? That chances are 99% they're going to get canceled, but convention promoters not canceling because they would lose out on their contract, right? They would owe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to the convention venue, the convention center or hotel or wherever that's happening, and the venue doesn't want to cancel because then they would owe the convention the money. So it was this absolutely horrendous, nasty chicken game that bigger, wealthier people were playing with our money, with vendors' money. And I saw a lot of online, attendees that go to conventions, and they had their tickets, and it's fair. Somebody's $80 could be just as valuable to them as my $1,000 that or $2,000 or $3,000 that I put on a credit card in advance to pay for a booth. But it was like, yeah, you guys have $50 of a ticket on the line. We have thousands, and conventions were not letting us know until a week before, right? And you're kind of living in fear. We were living in fear this year, and I say we because collectively I talked to a lot of my convention artists, because what if, especially a big convention that charges $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 for a booth, what if they decide not to cancel and not to offer refunds or a rollover, right? Then your money is held hostage. You can either, kind of play the Russian roulette of going to a convention during a pandemic and maybe getting sick and probably not making your money back because people are scared. So not as many people are going to come out to the convention. They're not going to spend as much money, et cetera, et cetera. And you might get sick on top of it, right? Because you might maybe break even, maybe, or just not going and forfeiting not only your money, but also any chance of ever going to that convention again, because there's an unspoken rule sort of with many of those conventions that if you cancel the last minute, or if you just don't show up, you're blacklisted and you'll never be allowed in. So no matter what their actual policy on paper might say. So it was a very stressful spring and summer. I initially applied for the payroll protection plan loans, which were the forgivable kind, and I got enough for like a couple of months of living, from that, and that was great. I mean, sure. Which, by the way, those are still, nobody yet knows how those will be forgiven. Just if people are curious.
Don't
I
worry
have
about
a
it.
loan that
Shh. These are not the droids you're looking for.
There were a lot of people
the
didn't even
process
want to
is not yet
try.
finalized. The regulations are not yet in place. My bank, even though I was supposed to start paying the loan back in October 30th is when I was supposed to start paying, my bank literally does not have a way for me to pay it back. They literally told me, sorry, the regulations are not in place. We are still waiting to hear how you can repay, or how you can apply for forgiveness of the loan. So it's terrible, and it's stressful because your contract of the loan still says October 30th, but the bank is telling you, no, it's okay, there's nothing you can do. So go ahead.
It's a really weird system. So at the start of it, they were saying if you use this money for paying your employees, and in this case, you are yourself an employee. They didn't mention that very clearly at first, because there were people out there saying, I don't have employees, so I can't apply for this. And that was some misinformation that was out there from the get-go. And it took a while for it to filter down that people could. They had lawyers look into it to figure out is applicable to self-employed
Right.
people.
And I imagine that would depend on what you're classified as, et cetera, whether you can classify yourself as an employee or not. So I don't know. I'm not. That's why I have an accountant that I will pay money for to tell me, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this. After that, very soon I knew I could realize, okay, this is going to stretch way more than the 2 or 3 months that everyone was thinking it's going to stretch. It's going to be all year and probably into next year. And then the actual SBA loan, Small Business Administration loan, what is it? Disaster something loans, they were being offered, which was a much, much bigger loan, and it wasn't forgivable. It's an actual loan. And I hate loans. And I looked at it and looked at the math, and I really had a hard time with it. But the math actually worked. It was a really good loan at really good terms. It'll help me survive a year if I'm really frugal. Pay off some of those credit cards so I don't start eating those up. Eating the interest, and at a 30-year loan, I'll be paying it off at $100 a month for the next 30 years, right? If I have to, right? That's not terrible, because the way I'm looking at, I'm surviving a pandemic. This is not just a blip on the radar. It's not a bad week. It's not a bad weekend at a convention that I have to survive. This is a worldwide war, is how I look at it. And I'm doing what I need to survive a war. I will use all the credit cards I've got. I will open new ones. I will do whatever I need to not have to go out and potentially get sick, right? Because that's a lottery I'd rather not. Money is just money. The lottery, playing the lottery with my health when I don't have to, is not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
So,
or make other people sick too.
Exactly.
I want to come back to the loans thing, very much so. But there was a question in chat that I wanted to embellish on just a little bit. Farley asked, these conventions didn't have any pandemic or acts of God clauses in their contracts, obviously. But what? So then, what was their what sort of justification were they giving you for not refunding?
Well, we don't know what their contracts have, but even if they have that act of God clause in their contract, they have to wait until the state takes it out of their hands and the state declares, sorry, you can't do a thing, and that, I guess, that's act of God. Why? Because we are in the 21st century and lawyers rule the world, and we can't just sit down and come to an agreement that the right thing to do is to tear up this contract and wait till next year. Why can't people do the right thing? I don't know. But that's the excuses they give us for not refunding. Now, we have to understand that conventions, I would say 90% of the conventions that got canceled for me, and it wasn't like I have much. I usually do between 10 and 15 conventions a year. So I would say the vast majority of them did not offer refunds at all. They offered, at best, a rollover to next year, to 2021. So, and now that conventions in 2021 are starting to get canceled, we are seeing conventions telling us, hey, if don't worry about it, your booth is going to get rolled over to 2022. And there's nothing else you can do. You won't get a refund because a lot of times that money is already spent. They spend that money.
Yeah, they can't bring it up from anywhere.
Right. They don't have it anymore. And
they're in debt too, probably.
Right. I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, but yes, they're in debt as well.
Fair enough.
I'm allowed not to feel sorry for them when they play, when they play with my money. So there are conventions. It's a judge it case by case. There were conventions like GaryCon, which is a lovely small convention in Wisconsin. It's a D&D convention that I would go to even if I wasn't a vendor. And and they offered a refund, or they offer, they gave us all the options. You want a refund? Take a refund. You want to roll over. And I was like, roll it over. I don't care. There is another convention that got canceled fairly early at the end of February. And it was a first-time convention for me. It was a small one. It only cost me $200. I'm like, you know what? Give me the $200 back. I could use it. So it just depends on what it is. I didn't know them. I wasn't feeling obligated to support them, but other conventions I did. So, and then most of them did not give us the option. They just rolled it over. So as far as The excuses they give us for not giving us a refund, no excuse. They will mostly point to their policies that say no refunds.
Hey, thanks for listening. We continue this conversation in part 2. You can get there immediately by clicking the thumbnail image on the bottom left of this video. And don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a great day.